Hey everybody, this video is part of our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. You can find that on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes. You can pretty much find it anywhere, so we don't care where you listen. Just stick around and check it out.
And Mark, now we're going to move on into the next topic, and I told you I was going to get right into it, and the Cincinnati Bengals. You brought up them, and could they take a wide receiver? I'm saying no, because I totally agree with Todd McShay. Me and him have the Bengals going with the same pick. The guy we're going to talk about right now, the biggest riser to me from mock draft 1 to mock draft 2. And we're going to basically talk about how high his stock can rise. Solomon Thomas. I got him going to the Bengals, number 9.
Well, here's the thing about Solomon Thomas is anybody who watched the Sun Bowl, they're in love with this kid. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was, because he just destroyed North Carolina. And he put the team on his back, dude.
Put the team on his back, dude.
I mean, let's be real. He was. It's just awesome to play. This is the kid who can wreck teams, who can really change the game. And what we're looking for now, let's look at Khalil Mack. Let's look at Von Miller. Let's look at J.J. Watt, what we wanted Clowney to be, and he's kind of sort of there. Mm-hmm. But these teams are, the Bears of Leonard Floyd are trying it as well. These are teams who are just looking for that pass rush. The guy who can completely take out the quarterback or completely rattle the quarterback. Cincinnati, they could definitely use something like that. I think there's quite a bit of things that Cincinnati could use to kind of reboot that team a little bit. But anybody who watched that game, anybody who's seen Solomon Thomas play, they will love this kid. And, it was obvious to me as soon as I watched that Sun Bowl that he was going to shoot up these boards. And cracking into the top 10, pretty damn impressive.
Well, and one of the things I will say is at first, I didn't want to put him that high because I was like, I don't want to be that guy that overreacts. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have one big game and then everyone goes, ooh, he's a top 10 pick, and they shoot him up and then they just fall. I didn't want to be that guy. So I'll be honest. In my first mock draft, if you guys saw it, I think I had him go to the Cowboys I had him go to.
Sounds about right.
I did. Yeah, I had him go to the Cowboys at that time. That was the last pick in the NFL draft because that's where the order was at that time. When I was maybe a week ago, when I was doing some of my mock draft.
I had him at 27.
Before Todd McShay had him come out, who did you have him go to?
At the time, the Seahawks.
The Seahawks. Okay. I had him go in my second mock draft before Todd McShay came out with his and I had to change it. I originally had him go to the Redskins. And that was late teens they are at right now? I want to say they're like 17, 18 range.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And to me, I was like, that's where I settled. Because I'm like, I don't want him to go too high. I don't want to be that guy. They're 17. I don't want him to be that team where it's like, okay, yeah, it's one of those things where, fuck it, they need this. So I'm like, he's going to go to the Redskins. He came up a little bit. And I even put in there in my paragraph, expect this guy to rise. In the Bengals paragraph, I put Solomon Thomas could be a pick here. But then I also put later, hey, this guy's going to rise because I don't think he's going to slow down, especially when we get to pro days. And the combine, to me, this is one where I kind of feel right now, I didn't want to say this right away, but I'm starting to think it right now. As like you said, he's probably going to rise and rise. I'm going to ask this, but how high he can rise in this draft, do you think we get to a point where not only is he challenging Jonathan Allen for the spot of best defensive end in this draft, but could we get to a spot where he impresses so much that because of what Myles Garrett, I know Myles Garrett came out and said, I'll play for anybody, but let's be honest. When the number 1 pick in the draft comes out and says to the Cowboys, please trade Tony Romo and picks to the Browns so that I can play for my home team, that can't look good for the Browns. The Browns are like, great, this guy doesn't want to play for us. I know if you're Cleveland, you're probably like, well, duh, nobody wants to play for us. It's a reality. Mm-hmm. But could it be one of those things where we get to the point as we get close to the draft that Solomon Thomas could be rising so much that the Browns go, fuck it, let's take him?
No, I don't think so. Myles Garrett's too good. He's not going to touch Myles Garrett.
Okay.
Jonathan Allen, I think you have an argument, but I still feel pretty great about Jonathan Allen. But part of that, anytime you get that Bama branding on a defensive player, you're pretty happy with it. It gives you that little extra edge there compared to the Pac-12 and talking about Stanford. But I do think that he has the capability of weaseling his way up into, through the top 10 a little bit. To be honest, I think some of his ceiling, the problem is that Jacksonville, Tennessee, these are teams that aren't going to draft a defensive end. You start getting into the 5 and down range, 5 through 9, because of course we just did talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a sweet spot where I think one of these teams can go and grab him and hope to get that defense going a little stronger. Of course, Carolina, they probably aren't going to need anything like that, but I can see the Chargers going for it. Why not? The Chargers defense has been underperforming quite a bit. We already talked about the Bengals. Why not the New York Jets? New York Jets defense is actually looking pretty solid.
Are the Jets going to take a quarterback, though? That's the big
quarterback,
thing.
I don't know.
Especially if quarterbacks fall. If
there's a good chance someone will be.
Niners don't take one, the Bears don't take one, and they follow the Jets, I think the Jets might think about it.
At the same time, though, it's going to be one of those questions that you just can't answer until free agency's done. So we won't know for sure yet. Could they go? Sure, if there hasn't been one that's dropped off the board. But really on all mock drafts, I haven't seen any mock drafts going and putting a quarterback to the Jets.
Well, the only reason I think I did my first one, and I think the only reason I did was I don't think Christian Hackenberg's the answer.
No one does.
And I don't think the Jets have a quarterback on their roster that is the answer. And if you're not going to get one in free agency, why would you not go out and draft one? And actually, I fibbed. I actually had him going Tim Williams, so I didn't have him go quarterback in my first mock draft. The thing that I think could happen, and I had to look this up before I brought this up, is Jonathan Allen could be the guy that Solomon Thomas jumps, and I think that Solomon Thomas has the potential, has the grades to maybe break the top 3 in this draft, because it's interesting. 7 hours ago, as we were recording this podcast, it's about 10 o'clock at night right now, Central Time, is Robert Slay, who was the linebackers coach last year with the Jacksonville Jaguars, is expected to be hired as the defensive coordinator for Kyle Shanahan's San Francisco 49ers. If he comes on, it's unclear, but I look at Jacksonville last year, they ran a 4-3 defense. So basically what you are doing is, if you're not going to go quarterback, everyone expects them to go defense. If you go Jonathan Allen in a 4-3 is not going to be your outside rusher. He's going to move in and be a defensive tackle there. That's the versatility that he has. He can either be an edge rusher in a 3-4 or break out to the inside in a 4-3. I think if they run the 4-3, they might look at it and go, hey, the better fit is Solomon Thomas, which then puts the Bears in a situation of, well, do we go with one of the safeties or do we go with Jonathan Allen, who's now sitting there in our laps?
Yeah.
Because the Bears are still going to run a 3-4 with Vic
sure.
Fangio, right?
Yeah, that's never changing. Not as long as he's there. So, yeah, I mean, that's the big thing with mock drafts. There's still a lot of time to change things. In that type of situation, I mean, Chicago Bears fans would be thrilled. You're getting a win-win. You're going to either get the top safety or you're going to get, probably second best defensive lineman on the board. So you got to be thrilled with that. Either one's a great way to go. You guys know how I feel. I want that safety. But hey, I'm not upset about it at all. But in this case, I mean, Solomon Thomas, how far can he rise? He can certainly rise pretty far.
But can he fall? Is that what you're gonna get to?
Not necessarily can he fall, but I mean, I think that reality could set in a little bit, and I think that so much is that hype built on the Sun Bowl, like you were saying, Ricky, of people wanting to just shoot him up. But he's got so many things to kind of hang your hat on, whether it's the intangibles, whether it's the fact that this guy, he's going to be out there, he's going to be able to play, just his body and how he's got the perfect size for you. You're thrilled with everything you've got for him, but do you have some of these teams kind of go, all right, well, let's pump the brakes a little bit? Mm-hmm. It wasn't until that Sun Bowl that we were all thrilled about him. So, maybe we go back to how we were looking at him before, but I can't imagine him falling into the 20s.
No. And the thing that I look at is out of the top two, the Browns and the Niners, let's say they go Jack and Allen. The Bears could draft him, but DB seems like a bigger need than defensive end.
Then the third best defensive end.
Jacksonville probably won't take him because they went with their outside pass rush. They might have to go offensive line or safety. The Titans, we talked about them earlier. They're probably going to go wide receiver. And this is as of right now. The Jets, quarterback's a big need, but they could go, like, the Jets, I feel like, could go, let's just take the best corner just to get the best corner in this deep pool. We don't have the same luxury that Tennessee has. The Chargers, wide receiver or offensive line, pick your pick, and then boom, at 8, that is where we can see, that's where the Solomon Thomas watch really starts. The Panthers, if they pass up on him, the Bengals, if the Bengals pass up on him, I don't think the Bengals would. I think if he falls to the Bengals, they would take him. But after the Bengals, the next team that I could see getting him would probably be the Ravens, all the way at 16.
I wouldn't count out the Saints.
See, the Saints, the thing is, I look past them in pass rush because me personally, I think they need to go for a corner. They went with Sheldon Rankin last year. I know he's interior, not exterior, but I thought they should have went corner last year. They didn't get the corner last year. This cornerback draft is deep. There's probably going to be one at 11. Go and get him.
Probably one at 11, but you might get one in the second round too.
If you're going to get the second corner in the draft at 11 or even the third corner, I would take that over Solomon. Oh, that'd be tough.
The third defensive end.
That'd be the third defensive end, who grade wise right now could easily be the second. Mm-hmm. And really, it's Myles Garrett. What do you consider him, an outside linebacker or a defensive end? Probably both.
Yeah, I'm putting him in the defensive end category in this case. But yeah, it's very interesting to see because there's a lot of teams that, like we were saying before, need defense. And the pass rush, pass rusher is becoming the star of the NFL in the last few years.
Look at J.J. Watt.
Yeah, I was going to say, J.J. Watt started it all. And from here...
Great hosts think alike, Mark.
That's right. You guys heard it here first. Every year you have a new team trying to get their Von Miller, trying to get their J.J. Watt. And every year we find one. Every year we find a new one to kind of be that game changer on defense.
So I'll ask this. I'll be the bold one. Mm-hmm. Will Solomon Thomas be the next J.J. Watt? The guy that maybe... how many years has J.J. Watt been in the league? Do you know off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, no, but I feel like he's been around forever now.
I want to say it's been... It wasn't the 03 draft, was it? Was that the 03 draft? I don't think so. No, it was 2011. Wow, I put J.J. Watt way older than he was.
Yeah.
So basically in his 6th season...
But he feels like he's been around for like 9 years now.
And he went 11th overall, so that could be same area as that Bengal. Bengal 9, Watt went 11. Are we sitting here 6 years from today? So 6 years from today would be 2023. Are we going to sit here today watching on the Dan Patrick Show? Hopefully it's on MVP, but I know Dan Patrick does it.
Dan Patrick on the MVP.
Are we gonna see Solomon Thomas reading off his draft negatives, his draft profile negatives on?
I really don't think there's that many. I don't know. I haven't really read that many negatives about Solomon Thomas, so good for him.
Well, it's one of those things where I know, like J.J. Watt, they on the air had him read his draft profile.
It's certainly possible. I mean, these defensive ends, these pass rushers. No, I don't think it's going to be anything like that. I don't think there's anything that bad that anyone's saying about Solomon Thomas. I can't find anything that bad people are saying about him.
For me, it's one of those things where I look at him and I just go, if he does have any glaring negatives, I don't see him. I don't see any. To me, it's just the speed off the edge, can get to the quarterback. And I wish my team had a first-round pick. Like, talking about the draft, that's a big thing. This is me going to go into rant mode a little bit. I love Sam Bradford, but
he's your guy.
I really would like to have a pick.
Right?
Really
I was
like
actually thinking about that this morning where I was like,
I don't have a pick.
I would say, I'm not willing to say it's a bad pick because he was healthy and he was there for you.
Mm-hmm.
He is not the thing that let down the Vikings.
It was the thing we could probably take at, 16,
right.
17, where the Eagles are?
Exactly, but at the same time,
offensive
it didn't
tackle.
really do what you... It was totally a desperation move. And people are trying... We're not talking about quarterbacks in here.
Yeah.
But people are trying to use Sam Bradford as the, hey, the Vikings traded a first for Sam Bradford, so you got to trade a first for Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm like, no. This was the first overall pick. And that was a desperate move. We all knew it was desperate.
It wasn't the first overall, but hey, I 5-0. I thought
No,
we were,
Sam Bradford, number 1 overall.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But he's been so
Jimmy
far
Garoppolo's, second rounder.
removed. Yeah, but Jimmy Garoppolo's better than Sam Bradford, I would
Played 2 games. Let's calm down.
But we had so many questions.
We had this conversation last week.
This isn't about Sam Bradford. But before we move on into the last one, that I'm going to let you start us off into any last thoughts on Solomon Thomas.
No, I mean I think that all these guys are really good. I mean, just like we were talking about Corey Davis and Mike Williams, these guys are all really close. There's a lot of great talent at the top.
And I found a negative for you. I was trying to pull up Solomon Thomas's. Forgot I had his draft profile up all along. The first thing on NFL.com, just to give you guys a weakness, because Mark said he couldn't find one. I said he couldn't find one. Considered a tweener by scouts. So there's a negative for you.
All right, you got one.
Like, he could be like 6 years down the line. Are we going to be having him say, length is below average as live technique, and just have him look at the camera like, really?
Length doesn't matter now. All you got to do is get your arms up.
Hands are quick, but need more consistent pop behind them. And he just looks at the camera like, I guess I need more pop off the line. Like, kind of that kind of thing. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below what you guys think of Solomon Thomas. How far do you think he could rise? And I want you guys to answer the question, will he pass Jonathan Allen? And really the ludicrous question of, could he be the number 1 pick? I just want to throw that out there. Don't think he will be. Don't cut my head off. I just threw it out there.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And don't worry, there is plenty more where that came from. You guys can check it out right over here. Click that video, start watching it, and just stick around on Most Valuable Podcasts.